Welcome to UNCAGED, a show that celebrates thought leadership from today's top business leaders. The program provides a voice to amazing executives from around the globe who are shaping the world of business today and mapping the path to the commerce of tomorrow. Today, I'm going north of the border here, and we're speaking with Oded Orgil. Oded is the president of the Canada-Israel Chamber of Commerce. He is also the president of 5X Capital, and he is also right now the CEO of Ocean Falls Blockchain. And we'll talk about all three of those things and how they're interrelated and really kind of capture all the things that Oded is doing to help businesses grow and expand and really get pushed to the next level. But before we get there, Oded, tell us a little bit about yourself and your career today.
Well, thanks, Brent. First of all, Ben, thank you very much for having me on. It's great to be
Absolutely.
here. My background is, again, I'm born in Israel, came to Canada quite young, had the tremendous opportunity of living all across Canada in Ontario and then later in the West in Alberta. Graduated law school, practiced that for a couple of years, and then moved into the financial services sector, where I've been for about the last 27 years, wearing a variety of different hats and different roles, from being a financial advisor to working in senior management to CEO of a wonderful boutique investment firm. And then in 2017, I branched out on my own and set up 5X Capital, where it was the opportunity to invest some of my capital and some of clients' capitals, and really do a lot of things that I love to do, which is just help companies grow, build organizations, and I've been doing that and work wearing a couple different hats, as you mentioned, over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, no, and I mean, clearly for someone who, I guess, kind of bridges between two cultures, right? Israel and Canada. You've been able to play a great role as the president of the Chamber of Commerce. But tell us a little bit about what you're excited about right now and what you're working on today.
Well, I guess, today I'm working on all three of those things that I've got going on. Uh,
Yeah.
but again, with the Canada Israel Chamber of Commerce, just it's been wonderful. We continue to grow and develop and promote bilateral trade between Canada and Israel, two great democracies, two great business centers, and really just we hold a number of events and to try to stimulate the growth between those two countries. I mean, that takes up probably 10 or 20% of my day. 5X Capital, as I said, is my company. I'm involved. We're a small merchant bank where we identify companies in unique sectors. We're sector agnostic, but it could range everywhere from med tech to artificial intelligence, which is a buzzword, cybersecurity. And again, we help those companies, provide them advice, help them raise capital as they look to opportunities on the Canadian capital markets. And that, again, takes probably about 20-30% of my day. And the other 100% of my day is involved with Ocean Falls Blockchain, which is a great company. Again, and I love this space as I'm learning. I think blockchain is going to transform the world as we move forward. And we're in the midst of going public on the Canadian Securities Exchange in the next 6 weeks. So I've learned a lot about all the regulatory processes. I mean, I knew about that from a distance, but being the CEO and being intimately involved with auditors and lawyers on a day-to-day basis, I think I want to go back into my other roles. It's a little bit easier.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt managing the process of going public or being public is perhaps an exciting thing to think about, but the process is never easy. So
Yeah.
I've had the joy of participating in that and also working with several of my friends who are going through those processes right now, and they have long, sleepless nights.
I often tell everybody I was 6'2", no gray hair, and good looking before this whole thing started.
That's great. So tell me, I mean, Canada and has obviously become a kind of a key area for a lot of amazing companies over the last couple of decades. But clearly, Israel is kind of like the, I don't know what we want to say, the birthplace of so many of these incredible businesses that are impacting us in North America. Tell me a little bit about the evolution that you've seen over the last decade with the businesses as across those two nations and some of the exciting trends that you're seeing in that space.
Yeah, it really is. It's quite exciting. I mean, Israel is known as a startup nation, if you've heard that
Yeah.
terminology. I mean, and there is no doubt. I mean, they're at the forefront of a lot of things in the AI, cyber, food tech, agri-tech, water tech. What's really been interesting for me, and I've been, trying to encourage many Israeli companies to look at the Canadian market over the last 20 years. And what I've seen is a maturation on both markets. And what I mean by that is that often in Israel 20 years ago, there was a great startup idea and they might get taken out very early in their lifespan. Or if they had the patience and really had something unique, could go on to unicorn status, maybe be the next Waze or Mobileye, or there's a number of those companies right now. What we've seen in Israel, which is interesting, is the maturing of the mid cap market, where companies do move beyond that 4, 10, 15 million valuation, but might cap out at only, and I use that, in quotation marks, only 100, 200, 300 million market cap. Um, and the interesting part is their recognition that there's an opportunity in Canada. Historically, Israeli companies, like everybody wants to go to NASDAQ, everybody wants to go to the NYSE. That there's been a recognition and an opportunity to come up to the Canadian market and recognize that a company with a market cap of 150 million, 200 million is a great company, and could do very well in the public markets in Canada. That there's opportunity, and if they continue to be successful, could actually make the leapfrog over to the U.S. over time. And on the other side of it is the Canadian markets. We often used to joke 20 years ago, we were either natural resources or the bank stocks. And there's been a maturing over here in Canada, with respect to like technology. I mean, we've had, Shopify is a great company that's now listed in the US. Think their last market cap was 10 or 12 billion. They're a great success story. And there's many others that have gone over. So it's really been quite exciting. I see that maturation on both sides, and an opportunity for Israeli companies to come here. One thing that's been the catalyst for that, I'll say, is CBD. I mean, you probably are aware Canada was much more open to that, and Israel was at the forefront of the medical use of CBD. But that's opened the gates for many other kind of sectors and other companies to come over to Canada. So it's an
That's
exciting
interesting.
time.
I didn't know that Israel had actually embraced CBD early on, but that's great to hear that.
Yeah,
And
on the medical
absolutely,
side. On the medical side, actually, recreational cannabis has not yet been approved, although it looks like it's coming right now with the latest parliamentary approval, the Knesset there. But on the medical side, they are at the forefront of medical study in CBD.
wow, that's really interesting. I joked before we started recording, Oded, with you, which is, oh well, did you get the vaccine in Israel? And unfortunately, it sounds like you're stuck in Canada right now. But the reality is that during this period, certainly Israel was the standout nation. I think is in terms of vaccines early on. But how have you been able to operate during the last couple of months? I mean, really, the last year as we've kind of moved forward through this pandemic.
Well, again, I've been very fortunate. I mean, as we've often seen, other than, early on in the pandemic where the stock markets, didn't do well. But what we've seen over the last year is a tremendous acceleration in a variety of different sectors. And again, COVID, despite all the horrific aspects of the pandemic and the tremendous, damage it's caused to people and unfortunately some sectors, some businesses, it really has created a K economy that if you look at different areas, as we said, we talk about med tech, we talk about, AI, we talk about doing things like this Zoom conversations that you and I are now engaged with, which is now day to day. There's tremendous opportunities, and I do see, a technological boom from that perspective. I've been very fortunate working with my connections in Israel. Again, and Israel is in many ways on the forefront of some of these areas, including blockchain, which is another aspect, in technology that we're seeing develop. I've been very fortunate. So being able to be very, very busy. It's good and bad working at home. We've got a full house with kids. Like, man, everybody else is learning to adjust to the dog barking in the background. But I've been very fortunate, and I think we're into a unique situation as some people will have to learn new skills and new trades. but the remote work creates lots of opportunities, even in fractional work and fractional sales. I'm seeing opportunities there. So again, almost I feel like at some days, Bant, I'm sucking on a fire hose trying to learn all these things that are out there, and you're never going to get all of it. But it's been
No, you're absolutely not. But I mean, I think there's some big trends, and certainly it seems like a lot of the work that you're able to do between Canada and Israel allows you to see some of these great areas, great innovations. Certainly, blockchain is in an area that has generated a ton of focus because of the cryptocurrencies and because of the impact that it can have just from a ledger-based system on almost every area of business. Where does Ocean Falls focus?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. I mean, Ocean Falls is unique in the sense that we have two verticals right now where we are a traditional mining operation, Bitcoin mining. We see ourselves as a boutique renewable industrial miner. So we're very conscious. I brag that I'm a capitalist, but if I want to do well, but I also want to do good, and my partners are the same ilk. And so we are focusing on hydroelectric power, renewable energy. We're going to look to start to experiment in areas, some things that are called immersion cooling, with the opportunity of dipping these units into a liquid and recycling the heat, which is really quite exciting over the long term. But that is one vertical of our business, is the Bitcoin blockchain, Bitcoin mining operation. And we're located in British Columbia, and we're growing there. And there's lots of water and lots of opportunity to do it there. And then the other aspect is what you talked about, which is the blockchain side. And the blockchain, really is going through what I call very similar to like NASDAQ 2001, where in 1999, if you just added a .com to your name, the stock went up. A couple of years ago, if you just added blockchain, things went up. Now, after a bit of a correction, you're seeing companies that really are solving problems, and how the blockchain can be something to take, to disintermediate, to allow for, for cost savings and solve real issues. We're focused on the insurance, which is one area, but the financial services, the medical area, there's so many different opportunities. But we're focused right now, as I said, Bitcoin mining and on the insurance blockchain applications, which we're quite excited about.
That's great. Those are, I mean, the mining space is a fascinating one because of all the issues that you're highlighting there. The energy issue, the cooling elements. I've had a couple of friends that have built operations in that area, and I would say that when you reach a certain scale, it does require a high level of sophistication, and so clearly that's what you guys are building at Ocean Falls. So that's exciting.
Yeah,
So
thank you. I mean,
yeah,
sorry, I'm gonna add one more thing. It's interesting how many miners, if we could go back, we wouldn't call it mining. I mean, because unfortunately, it does give a bit of a negative connotation. And really, I mean, it's like any new technology. Initially there's some inefficiencies to it, but it really does create, solve a lot of problems. And I think over time, with all the opportunities that you talked about, immersion cooling and other areas, that it will become very much at the forefront and an important component of the overall blockchain network.
I completely agree. And clearly, I think some of these innovations that you guys are making to make it more efficient, more energy, I guess, environmentally sane are critical. I've seen that actually is a big component in the machine learning space, the AI space, where I mean, I don't think people fully understand how much energy it takes to process and utilize machine learning at scale, but it's significant.
Yeah.
We really need to kind of make sure that we tackle those environmental impacts as quickly as possible, so we don't slow down this amazing kind of AI boom that we're seeing right now. So Oded, as you look forward and you guys map out your plans at the Chamber of Commerce, what are you excited about over the next, let's say, 6 months to a year?
Well, I think what I am excited about is again this opportunity and the closer relationship and between Canada and Israel on a variety of different levels. I mean, politically, Canada is much like the United States, a great partner to Israel, and again, there's a sharing of cultures, a sharing of the democracy platform. But as I mentioned earlier, it's quite interesting. I see the two countries gaining more and more traction, partially because of the capital markets and recognizing that neither one is a world power or perhaps has any need to be a world power, but has very, very, a capitalistic, an entrepreneurial population. And can really work in a symbiotic way. I mean, Canada is a large country with few people. I mean, Israel's a small country, with a fairly crowded people, but there is that opportunity. And I just see technology and things that we're talking about, it just makes things a lot easier. We've held a number of Zoom calls recently between Dubai, Tel Aviv, Toronto, and Vancouver. And it feels like it, much like you and I right now, that we're in the room next door versus half a world apart. So I see technology bringing, these worlds together, bringing greater opportunities and allowing synergies, for capital to meet with ideas and like-minded people to really grow their opportunities in the businesses together.
Yeah, no, I absolutely see it. And I don't see a shortage of innovation coming out of Israel right now. I just, every day I seem to be presented 10 business ideas from Tel Aviv that blow my mind. So I'm excited about the future of that business. And then also, I'm just hoping, obviously, the Canadian situation is one where I'm just hoping that the COVID stuff gets sorted out and that we can travel back and forth across the border soon again. I was inches away from Canada last weekend in Vermont, and it just pained me that I couldn't whip up to Montreal for a couple of days. But
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll get through this soon enough. I mean, in Canada's actually it's not too bad right now, Ben. I mean, the people have embraced the vaccinations probably a little better than some countries out there,
yeah,
and it's we are a population that is. I laugh about Canada. I mean, we are a little quieter. Perhaps it's the weather where it's a little bit colder up here that we're not quite as out there as Americans or Israelis. And I mean, because I
yeah.
interact with many of them, and so we follow the rules a little bit more. We were often our country was born out of an evolution, not a revolution. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm looking forward to the day going back and forth across the border and for sports teams to come back and forth.
absolutely.
Yeah, we desperately need
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Well, listen, Oded, it's been wonderful talking to you. We've been speaking to Oded Orgil. He is the president of the Canada Israel Chamber of Commerce. He is also the CEO of Ocean Falls Blockchain, that's actually going public quite soon. And he is the president of 5X Capital, which is working with a ton of innovative companies and supporting them as they seek capital and build out their operations in North America. It's been great talking to you about all of these areas, Oded, and I can only imagine the exciting stuff that we'll be able to talk about in the next year as you guys continue to build here. But thanks for being on Uncaged.
Man, thank you very much. It was a real pleasure. Stay safe.
Cheers.
Cheers.